Rock stars, songwriters, the sidemen and women, music producers, and more join Dayna Steele each week to talk about the rock business. Slide into the booth and join the conversation. This is Dayna's Diner on Houston Radio Platinum.
Now, normally on Dayna's Diner, it's rock stars, rock shows, rock concerts. But a friend of mine, Karen, who has worked for quite a few really cool rock stars, met this amazing artist. It must have been when she was opening for Leonard Skinner. So that gives her some cred right there. And Karen said, you got to talk to Hannah. So I'm like, okay, I do whatever Karen tells me to do. So I'm definitely going to talk to Hannah. So doing what I do, I start doing a little bit of research on Hannah Dasher. She is a rock star, country star, TikTok star. And even though you weren't born in Texas, girl, you got the best Texas hair ever.
I have a lot of great gay men on my team that help me, that keep my hair Texas size. Thank you for having me, Dayna.
I love it. I love it. You just have such a great story. And my notes don't go in any particular order, but I got to start with doing my research and looking things up and, Googling you. We used to call it stalking. Now we call it Googling. Oh my God. You are friends with somebody I am such a big fan of, and that is Landon Talks. Oh my God.
Isn't he darling? Landon Bryant. He is, I love him to pieces.
He is just, how do we describe Landon? He does a lot of, he explains Southern phrases like bless your heart.
He is a Southern lifestyle comedian on the rise, I would say.
That's a good way to describe him. So I just, you need to go Google Hannah Dasher and Google Landon Talks and find the two things that they do together. Find the two of them doing things together because it's absolutely hysterical. Now, chicken, egg, what came first? Did you start to get notoriety on TikTok, or did it start with your song that I believe you wrote while you were finishing up your last few days working at Bass Pro Shops?
Sorry. Well, I've made a little bit of a name for myself as a country music artist prior to COVID and quarantine. Signed a major record deal with RCA Sony, and and I had two major publishing deals. I'm still at Sony as a writer, and anyway, and I did a little bit of touring with the Cadillac 3, a great country rock and roll band, and I've never quite fit the commercial slick pop role that is country music 2024, 23. Anyhow, but yes, as a means to get the attention of my label, I thought I'd just amp up my TikTok page. And when the world shut down, I thought, oh my God, girls my age don't know how to cook. And everyone's spending $1,000 a month on groceries. Why don't I just amp up this little stand by your pan idea I've had tucked away in the back of my head for years, and just a country music infused cooking show. I use that word loosely, but it took off. Who knew? And I'm just so grateful that I was able to infuse country music and, my little nostalgic cottage there in Nashville, my home, with all my grandma's retro, the harvest gold avocado green. I mean, I collect old shit. I love old stuff. So, but but it just struck at a time that people needed that nostalgic, homey, feel good that reminded them of cooking with their grandmother or kind of a thing. Yes, it worked.
What's the number one most watched recipe?
Ooh, I wonder if it's probably my biscuits. My biscuits bring all the boys to the yard. I say probably the biscuits.
That is fantastic. Well, but you're able to use that notoriety to sort of, add on to what was happening prior to COVID. And, fast forward, you're not having to write. I mean, well, obviously write for other people. There's a lot of money to be made there, but you're the star. You're getting attention. Karen said, be sure and ask you about London, that you were some hot stuff in London. Tell me about that.
Bless it. Well, it takes a lot of money to do this for a living. And in the United States, there's about probably 5 big music managers that really can make things happen. anyhow, and so, if you don't really have one of those behind you, it's really, there's so many gatekeepers, and it's just really, really hard to break. But that's why you've seen acts like Tom Petty, the Heartbreakers, or I think Fleetwood Mac also broke. Maren Morris broke first in the UK. The structure's a little bit different. And in the United Kingdom, their charts are fan driven, whereas in the US, our charts are money driven. Anyhow, and I had no idea that I would get the warm welcome that I received. But yeah, I heard we had the biggest crowd outside of the arena for that weekend. I was just anyway, but they seem to like me a lot over there. So I can't wait to get back. We're hunting a good agent or shopping good UK agents right now. And yeah, just Bob Harris was a dream to meet him. He heard about my meet and greet line being wrapped around the building. And anyway, so called me in. So I did a BBC stint with him and came in and played and did an interview, and it was great. The guy that broke Petty.
And how fantastic that the charts are fan driven and not money driven. I mean, everything in the US is money driven, and I love that. That's fan driven.
Who'd have thought? Well, I mean, you can't always look at people's numbers, engage. I mean, virality is one thing, but a boiled egg went viral years ago. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I may have some really killer melody and a song that's really, really, really hooky, and it may go viral, but that doesn't mean that I am an artist with longevity that can be a true representative of the genre, that can go to Hollywood, that can take Nashville to the Jimmy Fallon show, that can host an award show. I don't think artists like this are born, overnight or every day. Not to take away from, artists that are having that kind of success. But anyhow, I'm old school, and I've always just thought, well, if I'm going to go into like seminary, then I better know my Bible. So if I'm going to go into country music, then I better know where I'm coming from. But luckily, my roots reach beyond country music. I mean, I'm a big rock and roll fan as well. And I
was going to ask you, who's on your well, a couple of different questions. Let's start with, who are some of your biggest musical influences growing up?
Oh, goodness. Well, in no particular order, but Alan Jackson, Hank Williams Jr., is just a true musician, and really, really was the first to really infuse rock and roll and country music and make it edgy. Tom Petty, Aretha Franklin, Eric Church. Those are probably my top 5 as far as songwriters and just performers and just people that have been relevant through generation for generation. You know what I mean? Just through decade after decade, rather, which is something I strive to be fresh as a songwriter. And Petty was great at that.
Not, so being in the music business for so long and working with bands and record companies and everybody, when you try to break out of your genre, people just can't. It makes their little brains implode. But you do cross lines. You do have country. You're an influencer. You do have rock. So looking forward, Hannah, who are some of the bands, country, rock, or whatever, hip hop, whatever, who are on your wish list to work with, to tour with, to write with?
Oh, I would say Blackberry Smoke. I've just done a date with them, and I've got another show or two coming up with them in a few weeks. But I think they've got the #1 record out in the country right now, don't they? But Blackberry Smoke is, wow, an incredible band. 3 guitars deep, and I mean, but to hear them live, I mean, Charlie Starr's voice, he's one of my favorite guitar players living. He really, really is. He is my favorite guitar player live. Anyhow, but the musicianship and the songwriting is just insane, and it's fat and greasy and soulful, and anyway, and just great music, regardless of the genre.
Fat, greasy, and soulful. What a great! You could use that on Stand By Your Pan, or you could use that in a music review. So what's coming up? Yeah. Notice I'm from the waist up. Thank you very much.
I'll hush. Y'all, girl,
y'all means all. That's my shirt I have on. So what's coming up? You said you're doing another gig with them, but what is on the horizon?
Well, right now we're on my second headlining tour, and Hanta is tracking a live album this year. So we don't have the, I can't say the release date yet, but we're looking at fall anyhow. And I think what I'm allowed to talk about, there's a lot of stuff going on that you'll see the fruits of that in the spring of 26 and in January of 25. So, but you'll see me around the television a lot more, I think. All the while writing more music and trying to sell out some more shows and do the dang thing that is honky tonk rock and roll. So I encourage anybody to come see us live. I mean, it's don't let my accent fool you. I mean, we did a little tribute to Dickie Betts last night, and
Yeah,
anyway,
that was sad.
it's just I know. Golly, talk about the father of, I guess, Southern rock and roll. I'm the biggest Skinner fan you'll meet. I love Skinner and Ward. I love the Allman Brothers, but you can't love Southern rock and roll and not credit the Allman Brothers with being basically the fathers of Southern rock and roll. And anyway, did she tell you I went to Headley Range while I was over in London?
No, tell me about that.
Well, I mean, your audience is a big rock and roll group, right? So they'll appreciate it. So Headley Grange, it was a studio. It's a private residence, but it was used as a studio in the 60s and 70s. And please shut that door if you don't mind. It's a little loud. Thank you. His daddy managed the Flying Burrito Brothers. It's my pedal steel players. So we got rock and roll all around us. Anyway, but Headley was used as a studio in the 60s and 70s, and it's where Led Zeppelin tracked Zeppelin 4 in 69 or 1970. It was one of my favorite rock and roll records of all time. And as luck would have it, I was able to contact the owner of the residence, and he too happened to be a Hannah fan. And so he had fresh flowers everywhere. So we rented a vehicle, and my posse, while I was over there in London, we drove down to Hampshire, and man, it was just, I wept when I walked in the door, because I mean, that's the foyer where Bonham cut those big old fat drums when the levee breaks. And Stairway to Heaven was written right there in that little sitting room, and Black Dog was written there at that house. And there's always been a black dog on the premises. So I got to meet the black dog that's still there, who's, a descendant of whatever Black Dog Jimmy Page saw running around. But Bad Company, I don't know, Paul and those guys cut Bad Company there, that same house. The energy was just incredible, Dayna.
I was going to say, you could feel it, couldn't you? And I love the story about the black dog. I just realized the dog I'm babysitting. You can see Wilbur there sitting behind me right now.
Oh my goodness, I love it. But I mean, it's easy to get caught up in this rat race, and so I love adventure, and I love to go places like that. That's gonna recharge my creative batteries and help me give you guys the best music possible. And I wouldn't be Hannah Dasher without a little bit of, without a lot of pedal steel, or without some big old fat guitar. It's kind of who I am. And I think as an individual, I owe my individuality to the consumer,
And how is it being a woman? Because I know when I was in rock radio, I was a music director for a long time, and I would be told, I'd be chastised. You scheduled Melissa Etheridge and Hart in the same hour. Never play two women in the same hour. Fortunately, rock and pop have gotten over that, but I hear sometimes it's still a problem with country.
Yes, well, I don't personally listen to like 3 or 4 like chick songs in a row or chick acts in a row, only because the treble and the high end of your ears, will ring a little bit. I like to change it up, but as far as there's so much talent out there, male and female. I haven't experienced as much of the it's a man's world politics in late years as I had probably like in 2014, when I was new in town. I literally I made t-shirts that would basically speak for me when I walked into the room, that like t-shirts that had like Earl Thomas Conley on them, or just things that spoke men's language, if you will, that let them know I know what the hell's up. And I'm not like anybody else. Or Hello Girl, and I left lay down with an old picture of Conway on her. And this has been like 12 years ago. Anyway, but I dressed a lot more manly, if you will, like, or a little more, my wardrobe is a little more masculine. I want to say, just because I wanted to make sure they knew I was one of the boys and that I was treated like one of the boys. But
I love the pictures with some of the suits that look like the old nudie suits with,
Oh
Hank,
yeah,
Hank
definitely,
Williams
definitely
and
with green. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, I mean, I've always loved that kind of stuff. I mean, this is I think this is the chick shirt today. But all that to say, I had to take some measures to make sure that I was taken seriously. And once I established myself as a songwriter and an artist, and I've been able to lean back into me. But all that to say, it is tough. But I just think as a woman, or just as an artist, I think I'm just one of the boys. But I just think we have to put out great music regardless of who's singing it. And I just think put out great music. And if you're going to put out whiny ass music, I'm not going to listen to it either. But if you're going to sing something worth singing and say something worth saying, I'll listen to it. You know what I mean?
You've been listening to Dayna's Diner, a weekly conversation with the men and women who created your favorite classic hits.